On today's show, how to look after your iPhone's battery health, plus a whole bunch of other stuff. So let's get into it. I'm iCave Dave and I simplify Apple so that everything just works for you. And if you want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours every weekday at 12 UTC, like the video, subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell. And before we get into the iCave Answers questions, which is where we've got that topic around your battery health and all that sort of stuff, we do need to talk very briefly about Apple's new child protection features that have been announced yesterday by Apple. Seems to be causing a lot of controversy online, and I understand why. It is obviously a sensitive topic, so, trigger warnings, if that's a thing for you, then just be aware that we are going to be talking in very broad terms about kind of child abuse. So there are some new features that Apple is rolling out. It is all about child protection. So the first of these warns under 13s about messages that could contain nudity. So Apple has created these very friendly pop-ups that say this might be something that you don't want to look at. Someone might have sent you something that you might not want to see. And it's your choice, but if you decide to see it, then a notification will be sent to your parents so that they can help to keep you safe. I think they've done a really good job with this. It does look very, very friendly, and it's very kind of child-oriented. This doesn't seem to be something that is a questionable thing, and this is a feature that must be actively turned on by parents in the family setting. So this is not Apple deciding what you can and can't send as an adult to people. This is just saying that there is a protection here that is usable by adults to protect their children if that's something that they feel is required. So I don't think there's any issues with this part. I think it's been done in a very tasteful, very safe and very kind of friendly way. There's also new warnings. So if you search for inappropriate images of children using your Apple devices, you will get a warning come up on the screen that tells you that searching for this stuff is illegal, and it will also direct you to helplines, because there are people who have, and I don't want to minimise this in any way, but there are people that have psychological conditions that might affect this, so it offers help rather than anything else. That seems to be the way that it's working, but I'm assuming that the system won't allow you to do this. I feel like this is an entirely good thing. And finally, this is the one that seems to be causing some controversy, and I understand why. If you use iCloud Photos, then Apple is going to download a database of hashes. This is, as I understand it, a database of encrypted hashes to your phone, which basically the encrypted images on your phone or on iCloud will be compared against without being decrypted themselves. So, as I understand it, this basically means that there is a database of kind of references to known images that have been in circulation that comes from government bodies in the US, that basically the encrypted files that you have on your system can be compared against to make sure that you don't have any of these files that are known to be images of child abuse. As far as I understand, explicit images of children. That seems like a very good thing. Now, the concern for this is obviously that people are saying, well, okay, they're doing it for this now, but what could come next? I know John Prosser had put something about how long is it before Apple will be scanning your photos for images of drugs, or there's also some stuff around terrorism, which, again, something that we probably want to avoid. I'm not sure if people understand that Facebook and Google have been doing this since like 2011, I believe, but not with encrypted versions of your files. They're basically looking at the files that you've uploaded to different places in an unencrypted way to see what's there. And I think they use like AI tools to define what's there rather than comparing it to an existing database, as far as I understand it. Now, it seems like Apple has been waiting a lot longer than anyone else because they've been so focused on privacy, and it seems that they have developed a method that they can use to kind of scan these without really breaching privacy in any way, because it all happens on your device, not in the cloud. That being said, I know that this will make some people uncomfortable, but I feel like it's being used in the right way at the moment. It remains to be seen what happens in the future, if this is expanded, if other governments are able to pressure Apple to use the same technology for other stuff. I guess it comes down to the same argument of we don't build backdoors into the encryption on an iPhone, because as soon as that tool exists, or a patched version of iOS exists that allows you to use unlimited numbers of passcodes to brute force it, that gets it out into the wild, somehow it will happen, and all of a sudden you don't have security on your phones anymore. So I understand where people are concerned. This is obviously a very sensitive topic, so it's not something that I want to go into in too much detail, but it's also too big of a topic for me to ignore it, so I think we'll call it a day there. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments section. Right, moving on, let's get into your questions. So this first one comes from Joe, iCave Answers. What do you think about the current state of Apple News Plus? Also, what subscription services should Apple enter into? So I am an Apple One premium subscriber, so I've got all the services, all 6 I think it is. So you've got Fitness, you've got News Plus. Fitness obviously not doing a great job at this point, but News Plus, I've got iCloud, I've got Arcade, Music, Apple TV, the works. I don't really use Apple News Plus right now because to be honest, for the news that I want, I go to the BBC website or the BBC app. Now, I understand that it's not really about news, it's more about having the subscriptions included to all of these magazines and stuff, but honestly, the internet's there. Like, if I want to read something about something, I tend to go to the internet. I don't tend to think to myself, I'm going to go to the Apple News Plus app and search it in there. It's just not the way that my brain works at this point. And I'm sure there is some really great stuff in there. It's just not something that I tend to use. That being said, I don't know how they would improve it, because it seems like it's a legacy thing where they're trying to help some like magazine publishers to kind of stay in business more than it is anything else. So I don't really know. In terms of other subscription services that Apple should enter into, I do think that what we will have coming down the line is a Pro subscription service, whether that's Apple One Pro or whatever it's called, which might be the app bundle for all of Apple's Pro apps. So Logic, Aperture if they bring it back, Main Stage, Final Cut Pro, Motion, Compressor, all that sort of stuff. Maybe some sort of photo editing thing that they should be adding to it. Maybe some sort of 3D software that they should be adding to it. Whether they will or not, I don't know. But as a lot of people have said yesterday, I hope they do keep the option to buy outright as well as doing the option for subscription. Maybe you get some bonuses if you do subscription. Maybe you get a very low subscription cost if you own it outright and you want to get the additional content. I don't think those are bad options for people, but everyone seems to hate the idea of subscriptions with a passion. Sweealamak asks, iCave Answers, what's the battery health on your iPhone 12? I got mine last November, but it's dropped to 96% from 100% in the last 3 months. I use a 20-watt charger and watch YouTube on the go, but it could be at 90% by the end of the year if this goes on. Any tips on battery preservation? Honestly, not really. My iPhone 12 Pro Max is at 99% still, which I don't think is too bad in, 6-8 months that I've had it since November. Typically, I've wirelessly charged it almost all the time as well. Just to be clear, like, I don't tend to plug it in. If I do plug it in, it's because I really need some charge quickly and I'm about to go out. However, the rest of the time, I've used the original MagSafe charger probably for the first 6 months, and since then I've been using an ESR Halo Lock like desk kickstand one, which is this little puck here, and it is basically a MagSafe style, so it's MagSafe attach with a Qi charger inside, so it charges at 7.5 watts. And I've basically been wirelessly charging. Now, everyone has been telling me that if you wirelessly charge, the battery gets too hot, and that limits your battery life. I don't think that's the case. I think you will get some heat from wireless charging, but because the heat is not being generated by the battery charging too quickly, that's not going to cause the issues to the battery that fast charging does. Now, everyone keeps saying that they want fast charging to come to the iPhones. They're saying that they want, there's rumours that next year's iPhone might have a 25-watt charger, or 25-watt charging capacity, because let's be honest, they ain't putting a charger in the box. But the problem is, when you do these rapid chargers, you will degrade your battery life. You will degrade your battery health a little bit. Now, what can you do to preserve battery life on a phone that you've got right now? In all honesty, you don't really need to worry about it, because unless you get under about 80% battery health, that's at the point where it kind of needs to be replaced. And Apple's battery replacements are actually fairly reasonable now. I think it's $69. So wait until it gets bad and just get Apple to fix it for you. That would probably be my advice. But other than that, if you don't need to charge it fast, like if you charge overnight, plug it into a 5-watt charger. Don't use the super fast chargers, because they will heat your battery up a little bit more, and they will cause a little bit more strain on the battery trying to take that charge as quickly. So I think with using MagSafe, because it only charges at 15 watts to, 50%, I think, and then it slows it down. So I think it's rather than trying to jam all the charging in one go, it does that. Also, make sure you've got the smart charging, or whatever it's called, switched on in your battery settings, and let Apple kind of manage it. If you have a routine, then it will, like overnight, only charge up to 80% and work out what sort of time you wake up in the morning and charge it so that it's full as you wake up, rather than sitting there full for hours. But in general, Apple's battery management is really, really good. It's only if you try and like jam the charge into it super fast that you might run into issues. Alan B Unboxings and News asks, iCave Answers, I know that the Apple September event is going to be in the week of September the 5th to the September the 11th, and it's going to be the Tuesday after my birthday, and my birthday is August 31st. So I'm going to disagree with you there. I think that Tuesday is the day they will announce the event, and it will be the week after. I think it's going to be September the 14th. That's the one that we've got in mind. That's the one that I've got in my calendar here. Could be wrong, it could be earlier, but 14th is the one that I'm expecting. And iCave Answers, did you know that my MacBook Air from late 2017, it's not compatible with Final Cut Pro? Actually, if it runs the current software, it is compatible with Final Cut Pro, but there are certain features, things like the 3D titles and things like that, that won't run if you've only got 4 gig of RAM available. If you've got the 8 gig version, then it shouldn't have any problems. However, if it doesn't have metal capable graphics, then it will be very slow in Final Cut, but it is absolutely compatible because I've got a 2011 MacBook Air with an i5 dual core processor in it and 4 gigs of RAM, and that runs Final Cut Pro. Ryan Ballinger asks, iCave Answers, if Apple are holding an October event for the iPad, will they announce new Macs in a November event? Now, we were talking about this a few days ago. It looks like we might actually get the MacBook Pros in September. And the reason that we say this is because we have had the codes for them published through the EEC database. There's a video up here where we were talking about all of that stuff. So based on the products that were revealed in that EEC filing, we had the iPhone models, we had the Apple Watch models, and we had 2 MacBooks, or two mobile Macs, basically. So not desktop models as far as we know. So I put a thing up on Twitter because I didn't realise that they were mobile-specific Macs, and said, what if they're only going to do the 14-inch and they're going to do the same thing as they did with iMacs? And people lost their minds because I said, well, maybe it's the new Mac Mini. However, I do think we still might see that Mac Mini at the September event. So this is my point here that I was trying to get to, is that the September event, it looks like those are the devices we're getting because we haven't seen the new codes for the iPads yet. So it might well be that they arrive a month later, and that the iPads would be the October event, and the September event is iPhone, Apple Watch, and MacBook Pros. And I think it might go in that, not in that order. I think it might go in the order of Apple Watch, then iPhone, then the Macs. Because I think Apple will want to get as many eyes on these Macs as possible, and I think putting them at an event with the iPhone, which is the one that basically everyone watches if they have any interest in Apple at all. Apple has said that 50% of people that have bought a Mac in the last 6 months, I think, have been new to the Mac completely. They're not people upgrading to an M1. They're people that have never had a Mac before, but because they've heard about how good M1 is, they've moved on to it. So I think Apple is ready now to push M1X into the mainstream and really just show off how fast these things are, especially compared to Intel. And I think that is actually going to be a real focus of what they're doing, because once we've got this M1X MacBook Pro and Mac Mini, the only things that are going to be left with Intel at the moment will be the Mac Pros and the largest iMac. And I don't think that's going to matter too much to Apple in terms of sales, because they are not big selling Macs. So I think MacBook Pros in September, iPads in October. Don't know if there's going to be a November event, but if there is, it'll be something else. Next up, Marcin Kowalczyk asks, iCave Answers, does pushback of a bigger iMac to 2022 mean we could get faster clocked cores, M2X or the like, or should we temper down expectations to M1X and that's it? So, Mark Gurman has mentioned that it could be an M2X that comes in the larger iMac if it is pushed back far enough, but to do that, it would probably be pushed back to September, October time next year. That would be annoying. That would be quite upsetting to have to wait that long for the larger one. That would also make the iMac one of the last things to get updated fully. So I don't think that would be the case. I think it's more likely to come in the spring with an M1X. If it comes with the M2X, yes, you will get the faster M2 generation cores. We're likely to see M2 in spring as well, I would think. But we should also be able to pretty much know how fast M2 and M2X are going to be based on having M1 having A15 chips, which will have the same cores as the M2 and the M2X, and having seen the difference between the M1 and the M1X. So we should kind of be able to know exactly how fast it's going to be pretty much by, I would say, October, maybe November. Depends how long it takes to get all these things out, but it's not going to be that long before we can basically calculate out the performance of pretty much all the Macs. That'll be pretty cool. And James Apple asks, 1. Will Alt Tech Dad get featured on IKversary on August 15th? Well, here's your invitation, Alt Tech Dad. If you want to be on IKversary, drop me a DM. We are following each other on Twitter, I think. Talk to me there. And number 2, do you think Mark Gurman is vague because he wants to temper people's expectations when it comes to Apple hardware? Because he seems to be excited about some products over others. For example, VR headset over the M1 iPad Pro. I don't think Mark cares how much he tempers expectations. Mark's job is to be not wrong, it seems, at Bloomberg. Doesn't matter whether he's going to put out useful information or not. He just doesn't want to be able to be pointed out as being, well, that was wrong. So he always says, as soon as. So the earliest that something might be out is this time, but it might be delayed. So pretty much everything that he says is very kind of hedged bets. That's the impression that I get, at least. In terms of VR headsets over M1 iPad Pro, I haven't actually seen his thoughts on the M1 iPad Pro, but I know he's mentioned the VR headsets and stuff in the past. I don't know. I don't think he's got any particular agenda other than trying to keep his job at Bloomberg. And, of course, getting clicks. So, thank you all for watching, guys. Don't forget, IKversary is next weekend, so that's August 15th on the Sunday from 12 UTC, so that's 12 GMT. 1 PM, our normal showtime here in the UK, through for 6 hours to about 7 PM over here, 6 PM UTC. But if it goes on longer, it goes on longer. It's one of those things that, it might just happen. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.